You skeptically stared at the orange liquid-filled perfume bottle in your hand. Its weight heavy, glass clean and shiny. It had been a very long time since Sun purchased one of these, and you were seriously considering to throw out your stock. With your gloved thumb, you gently caressed the bottle as if polishing it would make it be sold quicker. You returned the bottle with a sigh, before your attention returned to the customer, who was still weighing between a blue and a purple one. He was a false imp by the name of Grisha. He was sent here by one of his bosses for a birthday gift for their overboss. Very secretive about their identities.
What did you say was in these?
Blue visions are usually happy, purple ones are romantic. It was the 4th time you reminded him.
And,
if you're looking for a specific experience, you need to pay more. Grisha gulped, unsure of telling you that he worked for the V's would give him a discount for the specific visions. It was frowned upon to be here. That's why none of his bosses came for this errand. They were working desperately to maintain their image.
Well, it's a present for a very specific boss. Let's say he's obsessed with his vanity and media.
Okay, that was maybe a little too obvious. You sighed. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Annoyed, you took the bottles off of him. Now I'd like you to go to aisle 3. There are yellow colored ones. Yellows are for euphoric. The false imp tilted his head questioningly. Han, a demon that is obsessed with media is under constant attack with different emotions, especially when they're vanity obsessed. As such, you need an exceptionally potent vision. Got it? Grisha gave you a twitchy smile.
Yeah, that makes sense, I suppose. Thanks, smart hot clerk.
Grisha turned around too quickly to notice the blush that appeared on your face. Moments later, you returned with a yellow bottle, quickly purchasing it before leaving. For the longest time, being a dream eater was considered hell, giving you a FU. Dream eaters weren't strong, actually quite frail. Most of them were cowards. The metabolism of dream eaters quite fast, leaving most of your kind looking malnourished. They looked like hairless humans with tight-fitting skin that was prone to tearing if not taken care of properly. Their mouths in a permanent grin due to the tightness. These admittedly frightening appearing yet weak demons had, however, one ability above all else: dream eating. By inserting their fingers into the ear of their sleeping prey, they could suck out the dream and consume it. It was incredibly nutritious for them, but being a business run by dream eaters led to rumors and avoidance and sneers. As a dream eater yourself, however, you managed, turning your one and only ability into a business. Vivid, it was called. Vivid Works. You stole the dreams of demons, repackaged them as vivids that could be sold, consumed by anyone. Simply take the perfume bottle, stretch out your tongue, and apply. The more sprayed, the more vivid the vision would become. However, directly drinking it could lead to memory loss, as the vision would replace. It was Vivid Works that allowed you to partake in a plethora of corrective treatments, as now you had the money. You had hair, more healthy-looking skin, and as long as you consumed dreams, you'd look healthy. You even changed your chosen hell name from Wretch to Delusion. As it turns out, calling yourself that was more mysterious, adventurous, and somewhat professional. In the trade you had created, you slowly walked. As it turns out, calling yourself that was more mysterious, adventurous, and somewhat professional. You slowly walked through the aisles. Most of these you had hunted yourself. Some demons really needed to amp up their security, while others were offered to you by addicts for cheap. But there was a dark secret that you weren't willing to share with anyone, or at least, not yet. From the shelf, you turned one of the bottles a little. Not many demons took care of their business like this. But you were part of a species that was avoided. As such, everything needed to be perfect, even if you now looked like just a regular human minus your blue and red eyes. The door to your shop opened. Through the aisles and bottles, you could make out their rough shape. They were tall, dressed in all red, a static surrounding them. A cold sweat washed over you. You had heard rumors about this one. Lips quivering, you approached the new arrival.
Ah, greetings! You must be the proprietor of this fine establishment.
Yes, sir, you said, bowing respectfully. Your assumption was correct. It was the radio demon, Alastor. He smiled at you, but you returned.
I just happened to pass by and I noticed the unique appearance and smell of this little parlor.
Unintentionally, your eyes shifted around. Design-wise, you had been inspired by Eastern smoke bars. Proper satin hung from the walls, soft dark blue carpeted floors, and even a lounge area with big pillows and sofas.
Darling, I simply must know. Who are you paying?
Grinning, Alastor slapped his staff excitedly. Before the radio demon continued walking through the store, you closely behind him. He was inspecting the bottles.
Because an establishment like this has to pay someone for protection.
You scratched your shoulder awkwardly. That's just the local gangs. I have to deal with them.
Oh, but darling, these deals are as useless as the paper they're written on. The moment these gangs switch their bosses around, which they do a lot,
there will be renegotiations. You forced a smirk. I'm aware of that. Alastor took one of the bottles, a white one, a little sign before it reading, "Overdose Fantasy."
How literal are your descriptions, darling?
You gulped. Quite literal?
I see. So just so I understand this. This is the dream of someone overdosing, or more, is this a dream of someone who was overdosing?
You bit your lower lip. So far, you never needed to answer this honestly. Well, it's more like, yeah, they dream of overdosing. He cartoonishly raised his brows. Alastor saw right through you. And actually, he was just the first to ever do this. Though considering the riffraff that did end up in your store, despite your stigma, well, they always were convinced by that quick little lie. And so, Alastor put the bottle away and said,
Darling, the next time you lie to me, I will leave and never return.
You gulped. That was a threat. Looking down awkwardly, you answered, Fine. Please, not in the open. Let's go to the back room. Alastor shrugged.
Lead the way, darling.
Stepping behind your counter and following through a black door, Alastor was hit with quite the whiplash. The back room of your store wasn't just a simple room with boxes and cabinets to change clothes. No, it was actually a super cramped tiny living space, with a mattress, blankets, pillows, a small kitchen aisle, and a door that more than likely led to a bathroom. Of course, there were still the expected boxes and stuff. And there was a small copper hobby distillery with silver elding and decoration on the kitchen aisle. Probably the only thing that looked like it belonged here. Like a crack house. Ugh. You pulled over 2 chairs. I apologize for the mess. I didn't expect visitors.
Darling, it looks like you never expect visitors.
You swallowed that insult.
Well, my kind doesn't need much. We are sloth demons for a reason.
He shrugged.
Well, I suppose I just simply didn't anticipate it with that getup of yours and that store. I assume even a blind chicken occasionally finds a corn.
You gulped.
Now, darling, tell me, what do you actually do here?
You sighed. My business may seem rather lackluster, unassuming and boring. I mean, it just looks like I sell mediocre perfume that you spray on your tongue. Well, the visions Vivid produces, they're all real. They're memories. Alastor sharply inhaled through his mouth. He was beginning to like you. I deal in what could be considered the most evil of feelings, the most vile and disgusting. I deal in nostalgia.
You have my full attention, darling.
Demons were human once. And what is the feeling that keeps lazy, depressed, anxious people chained at home? Procrastinating, nostalgia, the need to be a child, wanting to be young, the wish to experience Spyro Dragon for the first time again. Confused, Alastor raised an eyebrow. Perhaps that last one was personal? You chuckled darkly. I tell you, when I realized that we dream eaters don't actually eat dreams but memories, that was like pure magic to me. Suddenly everything made sense and I just knew what I had to do. You pointed at the distillery. With our powers, dream eaters, or more, what we really are, memory parasites, we turn it into a nutritious syrup. The greedy ones of my kin just slurp it up to feel the euphoria of having a filled belly, but I had an idea. The syrup is real. It isn't just something imaginary we just feed upon. So what if I play around with it? Experiment a little? Suppress my own hunger for a bit while doing so? You sighed, folding your hands on your lap. And so, after some trial and error, I created the first prototype of Vivid. Alastor nodded. That was actually a very interesting story, and he had to admit, now he was curious. He smirked.
Well, darling, that sounds really tempting. What if you took one of my memories and fed it to me?
You blushed.
Well, you would re-experience it. All feelings and the like, as if it just happened. After a couple of hours, anything between 6 to 12, your mind should readjust to the change and put the memory where it belonged. But for these few hours, whatever you felt would feel real. Because technically it is.
What about the memory? Is it removed from my brain?
You shrugged.
Well, yes and no. I always make sure to give the person whose memory I stole the diluted liquid so that their minds remain intact. You know, it's just that the memory they once so cherished is just a little foggy now. see it more as that they're sharing their experience with others.
Oh, darling, I like what you're selling.
He went into thought, while you inhaled through your mouth. Sure, having a few addicts tell you nice things was one thing, but this was a high-level overlord. The guy could kill you with a flick of his wrist, and he just complimented you, even if it sounded a little wishy-washy. Leaning back, he crossed his arms.
Do me, darling.
Do you, sir?
You blushed.
Not like that. I would like you to remove a memory of mine, and then feed it to me. I wish to see how it feels like. If you don't mind, darling.
Awkwardly, you shuddered. Well, sir, you need to sleep for that. You said that so quietly and embarrassed he almost didn't hear it. Reluctantly, he looked over to your bed, sneering with mild disgust. But then he snapped his fingers. Immediately, 2 shadow demons appeared on your bed. They were carrying blankets and a cloth tarp, which was gingerly laid down on your bed. Again, he snapped his fingers, causing his cane to disappear. You wanted to protest. Usually you had schedules and appointments for this, but, well, he was an overlord. He probably was used to just doing his thing. After your bed was cleaned and set up for Alastor, he shooed you out of the room. Awkwardly, you sat down behind your counter afterwards, setting a cooking timer for 30 minutes. What a strange day, you thought. But thankfully, another customer entered looking for a vivid product, so your mind was instantly somewhere else. By the time the clock rang, you had almost forgotten Alastor was still sleeping, or at least trying to sleep in your back room. Cautiously opened the door, finding the place cleaned up completely. You gulped. He probably couldn't sleep with how dirty the room was, so he ordered his shadow puppets to clean. Ah, well, free cleanup, free cleanup.
Alastor? Sir?
He asked quietly, but loud enough that he should hear it. His breathing was slow and peaceful, and there was a night mask on his face. You exhaled through your mouth. A real-life overlord was sleeping in your bed. After regaining your composure, you made sure you were ready by pulling at the skin of your right pinky finger. From its tip shot out, like a switchblade, a long, narrow stinger. And so you knelt down next to Alastor's head. You gently and quietly pushed your finger into his ear. The stinger would directly penetrate into his brain, allowing you to feed. The stinger was just long, narrow, and sharp enough that he did not feel it when you pushed through his eardrum, as well as multiple layers of skin, muscle, and bone. You gasped when it made contact with his brain. You felt the warm memory syrup slide through the narrow tube of the stinger. And just as wonderful, delicious tastes flared up on your tongue, you pulled out of Alastor, afraid of sucking too much. Your hand was twitching, heart racing. It was delicious. As you looked at the thick, red, viscous liquid. You gulped down spittle, immediately walking over to the distillery, inserting your finger into the measuring vial. Comparing it with your formula, you added the exact measurements of water, and just a tiny droplet of grape-flavored cough syrup. You noticed that, with the distilled liquid having a faint hint of any taste really, especially if it was medicine-like, it sold better. It of course didn't weaken the effect of Vivid. You then turned on the burner under the boiler, before changing your attention to the bronze keg. Liquid soon was dripping into it, releasing a pungent, sterile smell, similar to a strong disinfectant. Alastor awoke some time into the process. He stepped behind you silently. The little barrel, as he would describe it, was filled by about a third. He watched you reach for the drawer under the distillery, only for your elbow to bump into him. You jumped with a fright. "Ah, Alastor! Oh God!"
Don't worry, my dear. I'm simply watching your work. Keep going.
Once the steam stopped, indicating the boiler was empty, you turned off the heat. You then took a bottle and filled it via the hose of the container. Once full, you shakily offered it to Alastor. "Shake it before using."
It's done? Tell me, darling, how long did it take to make this single bottle?
Embarrassed, you shifted.
I usually make 1 liter batch sizes and, well, depending on the memory, it takes longer.
You forced a toothy smile that looked desperate and awkward.
I don't know.
I always put it on the same heat. Wait until the boiler's empty. I don't stop the time. Alastor sighed. Your lack of experience was showing. But nevertheless, he sniffed the bottle. Its scent was familiar. "Smells like the detergent I used on Earth," he muttered.
"Did you say something, sir?"
No, I suppose. You could say I'm feeling nostalgic. You said for it to become my memory again, I need to drink it all in one go.
His teeth flashed as his cheeks turned rosy.
"Yes, and,
This way you will also have the most vivid experience." He sighed, put the perfume bottle to his lips and threw his head back, letting the slightly red-colored liquid slide down his throat. Afterwards, Alastor stood there, smacking his lips, eyes slowly becoming bigger, even though he didn't feel it. For a moment he looked at you, and then he was somewhere else. He was kneeling before a body, a fresh kill. His hands were shaking, knife still holding. The work was a little sloppy, he thought. But then his thoughts, his own mind, was pushed aside with what was undoubtedly the thoughts of his past self. And that's when Alastor realized he was watching, no, feeling, experiencing his first kill again. He was hearing his own thoughts, feeling the warm blood between his fingers. Oh, this euphoric feeling, mixed in with just the most bittersweet nostalgia. It overcame him. He loved it. Meanwhile, in the real world, or well, hell, you had proceeded to sit on your chair, filing your nails. The moment Alastor's mind had left this realm, he had been standing there, frozen. You wondered how long he'd remain in La La Land. When suddenly he grabbed you by the shoulders. You shook, only to see the glow in his eyes, this hungry look in his eyes. Damn it, he was still living in his memory, his body acting fully on its own. Salvia was trickling past his teeth, and you blushed hard. It wasn't long until he pressed his mouth against yours, into a hungry, all-devouring, slobbering kiss, latching onto you like a murderous, oversized leech, his tongue entering your mouth, wiggling, twisting. As a assault had started so suddenly you're frozen, like a deer in the headlights, ironically really. Whatever he was seeing with his vivid was making him incredibly hungry and horny, or at least something akin to it. that could only be balanced out by this. His body became bigger, quite literally, his horns growing. Before, they just barely poked out of his red hair. Now they were long enough to scrape against the ceiling. He was transforming into his demon form. His body became heavy and strong. Alastor released himself from your mouth, his black tongue hanging out, eyes staring into your soul. You tried scampering away, but he grabbed you by the throat, causing you to moan. This better not have awakened something inside you just now, you thought. He threw you onto your mattress, your heart pounding, your face flushed, as he jumped on top of you like a hunting lion. His mouth crooked into a giant evil grin. You could feel his strength, his power in the air, making your hair stand up. Uselessly you whined, "Please be gentle," as his claws began tearing at your suit. It was super late. At around 2 a.m. when Alastor awoke out of his stupor. He was heaving, unclothed, on top of you, and worst of all, he was sweating. You, meanwhile, were barely clinging to consciousness. Ugh, what was this feeling? Ugh. A disgusting exhaustion and a wet feeling between his legs. He sighed with disgust. And what he had been doing, not because he felt sorry for treating you like trash, or more, a slave, but more because he saw himself above this activity, and he was actively grossed out, to the point where he couldn't even be excited by the appearance of other bodies. He stood up, trying to stand dignified. Well, his ever-present smile almost vanished at the sight of you and himself, but he managed to keep himself together. He snapped his fingers, summoning a shadow demon who threw a towel on you. "I suppose you should wash yourself, darling," he said. You exhaled. You were completely out of it. I suppose you're exhausted. I must admit I feel it myself. He put his clothes back on quickly, before brushing over his chest with the back of his hand. Well, that was worth the experience, I suppose. He threw a calling card on your quivering body. "When you're refreshed, darling, visit me at that address. Let's discuss the terms of our deal. I'd like to invest." Hey, thank you for watching my video until the very end. I'm very grateful for that, and I would like to ask you to please share the video around on social media so more people can see it. And that's it really. But before we say goodbye, I would like to say thank you to all of my lovely channel members who so lovingly support me. We have Giovanni Moriarty, Twilight Mia, Zoe, Angel, Angry Boxman, Hella, Bitbit, Melofia, Anonymous Weep, Zachary, Nicodemus D, and Valerie Wings. Thank you for being wonderful darling stewards, and of course, let's not forget all of my other lovely darlings who support me. Thank you for your support. It is greatly appreciated. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.